Hey everybody, it's Carl from Carl's Opinion. How you guys doing? I'm gonna make sure we got these volumes turned down here. There's one right there. Let me get this one. Boom. All right. Hey, I just want to say hello to everybody. Just came off our 3-day weekend Pahrump Wild West extravaganza. Had a really good time there. Got to do some live interviews with some local residents, and it was really cool. And had a big booth set up and stuff. Let me just show that to you. What we had going on out there. Let's see. Yeah, that's at a double booth setup. You see the Carl's Opinion YouTube channel banner with the Trump 2020 next to it, live call-in, live video shows, and that was really cool. And I did two booth setup. I did the chili cook-off. That was a 2-day event. This was a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it was combined with a rodeo and a country music concert, live country music concert as well. And last time I only had a single booth, and when I was doing live interviews, I don't know if any of you remember, the people were sitting outside the canopy, so the sunlight was really affecting, how you could see them. It's really hard to control sunlight with the shadows and stuff. So what I did this time, I had two canopies, and I tied them. Then I had a little cover between the two, kept the sunlight out, and I brought in some artificial lighting that I grabbed off of Amazon. And it really made a big difference in being able to see the people I was interviewing. So I really liked how that worked out. Plus, to get a little more space for people. It got a little warmer than it was a month ago. In Nevada, it was just started getting hot all of a sudden. And we're now in the month of May. It's when it starts getting hot. So it was kind of nice having people be able to sit in the shade as well. But yeah, we were out there for Friday from 12 to 9. Saturday from 8 to 9. And Sunday from 8 to 4. Couldn't do too much on like Friday. It was really hard to try to coordinate with the cover bands. As you know, YouTube doesn't like any kind of live music, unless you pay royalty fees for it. The music, like for instance, the music I play on the site here, I've already paid the royalty fees for, so I don't get a copyright strike. But as you know, like Anthony Brian Logan and a couple other guys, when they get a copyright strike, for playing music or somebody else's stuff you don't have royalty rights to, you get suspended for 90 days for live streaming, and 90 days is a lifetime. When you're doing a YouTube channel, because your viewers and your subs are like, hey man, where'd you go? And you're not there, and it's a real pain. So I had to kind of go in between the live cover band because they were playing Leonard Skinner and other rock groups like that. It wasn't their own music, and then I had the rodeo, which was right behind me. If you look kind of between the two booths there, where that lady is sitting. You have the rodeo, and behind in that rodeo, they were playing music off a CD, and so because of that, because of the CD, they were playing music that didn't have royalty rights also. So between trying to get between the cover band playing their sets and then the rodeo playing music off the CD from behind me, it was a little hairy, but eventually I got it work where I could. If you notice, I pulled in I didn't really go more than like an hour and a half on either of the live streams I did. Pretty much about an hour, because that was like in between the sets and the rodeo and stuff like that. But it was a great time. A lot of people came out. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool. A lot of like-minded people came out and everything like that. So that was nice, and gave a lot of Carl's Opinion business cards and stuff. So it was just fun interacting with her. I got to interview. If you saw one of the interviews I did from yesterday, I actually got to interview the chairman of the Nye County Republican Central Committee, the local Republican Party here in Nye County. He just got elected 2 weeks ago, Ray Grant, and that was a really good interview. I really enjoyed talking with him, and he's a really smart guy, really sharp guy, knows a lot of people, and has been around for a while, knows the issues really well. And we're looking forward to turning the state back red again. We became a blue state, just a complete blue state in 2018 as far as the congressman, and also the state legislature, the state assembly, and the governor's office. Thanks to all the people from, thanks, Effie, yeah. Thanks from all the people from California who decided to move up here and be a bunch of pains in the butts and vote for the same people they voted in back in California, which is why they moved away from California, and then they get here and they vote Democrat also. It's like, totally don't understand that. But yeah, it was a really cool setup. Had a really good time. we had you couldn't leave really anything behind. Park, the computers and the microphones and the mixers and stuff like that. So every morning was, getting there early, around like say 6 a.m., get everything set up, get all the wires hooked up, and then at night breaking everything down, taking all the, you leave the canopies and the tables and chairs up. Somebody wants to steal that, then if you need a chair that bad, you can have it. But as far as the computers and everything, yeah, they went home every night. But yeah, had a really good time, lots of nice people. So yeah, to those who got to see it, if you didn't get a chance to see it, check it out. The second interview I did on Sunday, I turned the gain up too high on the interviewee's microphone, the guy I was interviewing, and so my voice was being picked up both on his mic and my mic. And so it was causing a little feedback loop, or an echo, if you will. So you'll hear a little bit of an echo coming off my mic. Luckily, though, when I went back and looked at it, it wasn't too bad because he did most of the talking, which was good. And, of course, I didn't have my gain turned up high because I was right on top of my mic. So his voice wasn't echoing, but it's just my voice. But that's a really good interview, too. The guy was a really good political historian, constitutional law historian, knew a lot about the history of the Founding Fathers. That interview is worth watching as well. That's Gerard Cote, and I put a link to his website in my description box for his interview. That was yesterday afternoon. So if you get a chance, check that one out also. That was a really good interview. But we got some news to get to, so let's go ahead and get to it. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. So one thing I wanted to cover real quick here was this story here. And let me get back and get me up on camera here. And this was a really interesting story. I didn't get a chance to read it yet, so I guess we'll just read it together. But Black Hispanic Democrats cross party lines on abortion bills, frustrate push to codify Roe. So let's get to that story. And it's a live call-in show tonight. So obviously, if you want to call in, please feel free. Phone number, area code 775-273-8970. If you want to appear by VMix video call, just if I've already sent you an email back and forth, that kind of stuff, just put in the chat room that you want to appear by video call, and I'll shoot you the link. If you haven't appeared by video call and I haven't sent you an email and you haven't sent one back to me, you got to send me an email to that address there, ca2jogger@gmail.com, and I'll reply to your email with the link, and then you just, you'll get the link, click on it and just type in your username, hit join call. I take the rest, take care of all the rest on this end. Now when you come on in, you won't be able to you might be able to see me, but you won't see a lot, and you won't be able to really hear me or anything. You'll be in a different screen. So once I see you come in, and I'll see you, I'll find you, and then once I see you, I'll bring you into the output screen, and then you'll be able to see, hear, and all that other stuff. So yeah, like Douchebag came in the other night, he goes, "Oh, I couldn't see anybody, I hung up." It's like, no, you were in, I saw you come in, I just didn't get to him yet, and so he hung up before I could put him in the output screen, because until you get to the output screen, you're not, you really, I can't hear you, you can't hear me or anything like that. So you just got to wait till you get to that screen, and then you're good to go. So, but let's cover this story here. Okay, like as I stated, Black Hispanic Democrats cross party lines on abortion bills, frustrate push to codify Roe. And the stat they cite here, black women undergo 27% of abortions despite only making up 13% of the population. And as we know from the history of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, one of the biggest racists in the world, she believed in eugenics, which was basically weeding out the undesirable people in the population. And to her, that meant black people, it meant Hispanic people. And so she set up all her Planned Parenthood facilities in the inner cities, in the urban areas, called urban, actually black neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhoods, because she wanted to get rid of them. I mean, she had meetings with the Klan. She was sympathetic, empathetic, actually communication with the Nazis as well. She was a big fan of getting rid of undesirable people. In her mind, undesirable people meant people of color, black people, Hispanic people. And so that push has been going on ever since. And even though after the Holocaust, she kind of distanced herself from the Nazis, obviously. And then, of course, when the Klan became unpopular after the 20s, because she was around in the 1920s, she kind of distanced herself from that. But it was still her same philosophy. She didn't change her mind. or anything. Most of those facilities to this day go up in inner cities where a lot of black and Hispanic people live, and are basically, her vision and the vision of the people following her is get rid of black people, get rid of Hispanic people. That's who they are, and it's good to see that you got some legislators, black and Hispanic legislators, waking up to this realization that they're trying to get rid of you. They're trying to kill you before you're born, and it's really sad. And Ray talked about this yesterday as well. As far as how you got your your white supremacists, white racists using abortion to get rid of black people before they're even born. So anyway, it's good to see you got black and Hispanic legislators, Democrats, waking up to this reality. So let's go on to the stories again. This is from the Washington Times. Washington Times, and this is from Valerie Richardson. So here is a story from today. In North Carolina, the 6 Democratic legislators who broke ranks last month to join the GOP in passing an infanticide bill all had something in common. None was white. 5 of them were black, 1 was Native American. They included State Senator Don Davis, who became the hero of North Carolina's pro-life movement last week when he crossed party lines to thwart Democratic Governor Roy Cooper's veto, sending the override measure to the House. One party's affiliate, this is what he says, actually, Right to Life says this, one's party affiliation should not determine one's conviction to be an advocate for life, tweeted North Carolina Right to Life. Be sure to thank Senator Don Davis for voting to override Governor Cooper's veto to protect born-alive survivors of abortion. I mean, it's a shame we have to even be discussing this. I mean, this seems kind of obvious. You don't kill babies that are born alive that survive an abortion. I mean, we really have to have this discussion? I mean, who the hell's in favor of killing babies if they survive an abortion? I mean, what kind of a sick person does that? I mean, that's murder. Sorry. Mr. Davis was hardly alone. In a legislative session that saw abortion rise to the forefront, black and Hispanic legislators were notable in their willingness to cross party lines, exposing a racial schism on a key Democratic issue and frustrating efforts to unite the party behind the push to codify Roe versus Wade. In New Mexico, for example, Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham was rocked by a tough defeat in March after 8 Senate Democrats voted against the bill to expand abortion access. 6 of the senators were Hispanic. Now, I've been saying this since I've had this site, and actually before when I was actually moderating on other sites, and I was putting comments up over a year and a half ago. The Hispanic population, the people who move to this country, I hate to say this to the Democrats, but they're natural Republicans. It's just that when they come across and they're greeted by these people handing them free stuff, and they're hungry and they don't have a job, right away, because they, before they'd come over here, they get a job right away. Well, sometimes they don't get a job right away, but they would then, the church would help them out, their neighbors would help them out, very close-knit community. They'd move into, neighborhoods, primarily Hispanic neighborhoods and Spanish-speaking neighborhoods, and there were always people there to help you out. I mean, even if people didn't have a lot, they were there, hey, you just came across, hey, we came across, 10, 20 years ago. How can we help? And so you would have that kind of community. But, before they even get to that community where people can help each other out, you got these, these liberal leftist organizations just handing them free stuff. And it's kind of just like Dinesh D'Souza portrayed it in that movie he did when he showed the immigrants coming off the boat in the 1800s, the Irish and the Italians and stuff. And they were greeted by the big party bosses, and they say, "Oh, here, we can get you a job, we can get you some food, we can get you a place to stay, some shack, some slumlord shack." But still, they just handed them stuff, and then come voting day, the election day, you see these big thugs going around banging on people's doors, telling them, "Hey, you got to come out to vote." And hold on a second, let me just get over this other screen here. Tell them they have to come out to vote, and tell them who they're going to vote for. So it's the same thing. It's just 120, 130 years later, but it's the same philosophy is going on right now. So, but it seems like if we can get them away from the leftists and the free stuff, in my opinion, they've always been natural Republicans. They're pro-family, okay? They're anti-abortion. They're Catholic. Generally the people who are coming over here aren't coming over here for a free handout, but when you tell them, come over here, we'll give you a free handout, then those people that you're attracting, those are the ones looking for the handout, those aren't good. But by and large, the illegals that we had coming just even 10 years, 20 years ago weren't coming across looking for a handout. But when they're being told, "Hey, come here, you get a handout," I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard to turn that down, especially if you have a wife and kids or something, and you want to have some dignity and pride, but you got some small children and a wife you want to take care of. But I mean, they're natural Republicans. They're big entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of them start small businesses when they get here. I mean, everybody sees the cleaning services, landscaping services, restaurants, all kinds of stuff. So they check all the boxes for Republican. They just do. And when you see them here, like in New Mexico, where 6 of the 8 Senate Democrats who voted against the bill to expand abortion rights were Hispanic. Well, yeah, they're Catholic. I mean, and they're like real Catholics. I mean, they're not like grocery store. We used to call them grocery store Catholics, grocery shelf Catholics. You walk by the aisle and you say, if you're Catholic, well, I like what on that shelf, but I don't like what's on that shelf, or I don't like what's on that shelf. I don't like what's on that shelf. So that kind of thing. So these are like real Catholics. I mean, they go to church. I mean, they do. They don't just go to church on Christmas and Easter. I mean, they go to church like every week. So I'm glad to see that was happening. So let's continue on with the story. Let's see here. In Nevada, the Pro-Choice Trust Nevada Women Act was approved last week by the state Senate on a 12-9 vote, despite 2 Democratic defections. One came from State Senator Moises Dennis, a pro-life Democrat whose parents immigrated from Cuba and whose cousin is Senator Marco Rubio, a Florida Republican. The other no vote was cast by Democratic State Senator Marcia Washington, who was black and had no qualms defying her fellow Democrats on the bill aimed at decriminalizing abortion by removing, for example, a requirement for doctors to perform the procedures. I voted that way because I don't. This is Miss Washington, the black legislator here in Nevada, my state. I voted that way because I don't believe in any form of abortion," said Miss Washington in an email. Of course, non-white Democrats are still more likely to support such bills than oppose them. The Nevada bill was sponsored by State Senator Yvonne Kinsella, who said the measure removes outdated laws that criminalize abortion. A provision to remove the state's parental consent requirement was struck before the Senate vote. Melissa Clement, executive director of Nevada Right to Life, said it took tremendous courage for the 2 Democrats to vote against the bill, saying they experienced tremendous pressure, and I have nothing but huge admiration for them going out on a limb. At the same time, she wasn't shocked to see the Democratic opposition come from minority legislators. When you think about it, this is the Right to Life person here in Nevada. When you think about it, it's not terribly surprising because abortions impact the African American and Hispanic communities at a much greater level than the Anglo communities, said Ms. Clement. In some areas, more blacks are getting an abortion than are having babies. She referred to widely reported figures from the New York City Health Department showing that in 2013, black women gave birth to 24,108 babies and underwent 29,007 abortions, a statistic rated by PolitiFact as true. Now think about that number. So in 2013, black women gave birth to 24,000 babies, but also had 29,000 abortions. So they have negative population growth. I mean, this 13% number for the black population in the United States. I've been hearing that number for like 15 years. It's like 13%. It just seems to never go up. 13%. I mean, I understand you have a large Hispanic population coming in, and so maybe that might keep that number down, but there's more to it than that. I mean, how long is it going to be 13% for? I mean, maybe next year it'll be 12%. So, I mean, their population is one of the few populations in this country not actually growing. I mean, our percentage is going down as far as, when I say our, I mean me as a white person, are going down as well. But, well, again, a lot of white people get abortions too. I mean, Jesus. So, I mean, you look at the number of abortions in the black community, and that's pushed, again, a lot of those Planned Parenthood places are shoved right into those inner cities. And they encourage these people to get abortions, and they say, "Here, get an abortion, get an abortion, get an abortion, kill your baby. Oh, it's no big deal." Well, they don't even say "kill your baby," of course, because that wouldn't be pretty positive. So anyway, it says they go on to say Planned Parenthood for America, which has been accused by pro-life groups of targeting black women, has swung back by touting its work in providing health care, including pap smears, breast exams, and pregnancy tests in minority neighborhoods. The organization has also framed the issue in racial terms, by accusing pro-life advocates of seeking to deny reproductive health care to black and Hispanic women, saying there can be no reproductive freedom without racial justice. Yeah, well, their form of racial justice is killing a bunch of black and Hispanic babies. That's Planned Parenthood's form of racial justice. We must work with communities of color to dismantle white supremacy. They're the white supremacists. Oh, Jesus. And talking about which prevents advancements in health equity. Abortion has declined for years among all racial groups, with black women still undergo more abortions per capita than their white or Hispanic counterparts. A 2017 study by Guttmacher Institute researchers found that black women underwent 27% of all abortions, a significant decrease from nearly 40% in 2008. Think about that number. In 2008, black women constituted 40% of all the abortions in this country. That's insane. I mean, that's insane. Why? Who's pushing it? Who's pushing that? Okay? Who's pushing that? Tell you who's pushing that. White liberals. I've always said, you want to find a racist, find yourself a white liberal, scratch a little bit of the skin off, and there's a racist right underneath it. Boom. But anyway, 27% of all abortions, a significant decrease from nearly 40% in 2008, but still more than double their 13% of the U.S. female population. That disparity has been hammered home by pro-life groups such as Black Dignity and the Radiance Foundation, headed by Ryan Baumberger, who is black. He goes on to say, abortion is the number one killer in the black community. It's a leading killer in the black community, said Mr. Baumberger in a video. It actually outnumbers all top 15 causes of death combined. Think about that. Take the next top 15 causes of death, add them all together, and abortion still kills more black people than the next 15 causes of death combined. Combined. Think about that number. I mean, that's crazy. Again, who's pushing this? Who's pushing this? Conservatives aren't pushing this. We're against abortion. It's not us. It's the liberals. Why? Why? Because liberals are racist. White liberals are racist. Period. They are. They always have been. They treat minorities like, they don't think of them as equals. They never have. They think of them as like, they treat them like children. Oh, we got to take care of you. Oh, we got to help you out. Oh, we got to, and so, you keep talking to somebody like they're a child. You keep treating them like a child. Then you expect them, not to act like a child. It's like, well, you've been talking and treating them like a child for like the last at least 50 years, if not 100. And then, you take away all their dignity, you take away their pride, and then you say, oh, then they pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, how can they do that when you've been treating them like, like children this whole time? And those are the liberals, white liberals, and all it is about virtue signaling. And I've always said, if you have to virtue signal, it means you don't have any virtue. That's what it means. Hey, Amy D, how you doing there, young lady? Let me give you a shout out real quick. Let's see. I see Mr. Douchebag. Hey, Amy. Boom. Dump-a-dump. Boom. Hey, but anyway, so, see, again, it's not us pushing this. It's not the conservatives pushing this. It's the white liberals pushing it. And like I was just saying, if you have to virtue signal, it means you don't have any virtue. If you have virtue, you don't have to virtue signal. It's like, these liberals are like, oh, I like black people. I help out black people, And a lot of them voted for Barack Obama just because he was black. I voted for Barack Obama twice. Trust me, it had nothing to do with him being black. It's just that he was the best man the right man at the right time. Boom. And I didn't want to go to war. I didn't want to send a bunch of young men and women to war in Iran, which is John McCain was sending us to, and possibly even Russia when he said we're all Georgians. But white liberals, I guarantee you most of them voted for Barack Obama just because he was black, which is really insulting if you think about it. But that's how they think of black people. They're just very insulting, very condescending, and they're awful, and they're a big fan of killing them. It's like, well, we got to take care of you, but maybe if there's less of you, it'll be easier to take care of you. I mean, again, think about that number. The next 15 causes of death combined are less than how many black people abortions kill every year. Again, that's just insane. Again, I'm reading this article the first time with you guys, so I'm reading this and I'm kind of getting shocked by what I'm reading here as well. In Illinois, Democrats had high hopes for ambitious pro-choice legislation after newly elected Governor J.B. Pritzker vowed in January that the state will be the most progressive state in the nation when it comes to guaranteeing women's reproductive rights. Since then, however, a bill to repeal the state's parental notification requirement has stalled in committee. So has the Reproductive Health Act, which would remove virtually all restrictions on abortion, after thousands turned out at a rally against the bills in March. 5 Democratic House co-sponsors have since withdrawn their support. 4 were black female legislators, according to the Illinois General Assembly page. Mary Kate Knorr, executive director of Illinois Right to Life, credited the work of pro-lifers such as Chicago pastor Cesar LaFleur in minority neighborhoods, as well as what she described as a growing sense that such communities have not been well served by abortion. I think there's concern in general just about the clinics in minority neighborhoods, said Ms. Knorr. I think they really were concerned that this would be bad for their communities in particular. Yeah, it would be. I mean, that's just, damn. We'll get to another story here. This one I kind of liked also. Legally unchallengeable. ICE to deputize police and sanctuary cities to detain illegals. Let's take a look at this one. This is by Stephen Dinan of the Washington Times, also from today. Just give me a second. Let me grab a cigarette real quick. Grabbing a cigarette. That's what I'm doing. I'm smoking. Let's see. What you guys? While I'm grabbing a cigarette, let's see. Effie. Let's see. Let's see. Leftists are simply pro-death. Save the planet, kill the people. Yeah, really. Like, we got to save the planet for whoever. Let's see what we got here. All right. So, back to this story. Homeland Security officials announced a program Monday that they said will give some police a way to duck sanctuary city policies and still cooperate with ICE by turning over illegal immigrants for deportation. The plan, announced jointly with Florida sheriffs, would train local police and deputies. Let me bring this up. To train local police and deputies to arrest people in their prisons and jails based on federal immigration warrants and hold them for up to 2 days, giving time for deportation officers to collect them. Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri was the first to sign on. He said he will send 40 deputies for training, enough to make sure at least one is on duty to serve a warrant, should U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement alert the department to a target. It is easy to implement, and it is legally unchallengeable, Sheriff Gualtieri said. I said it will welcome any department across the nation to the Warrant Service Officer Program. It is a particularly good option for sheriffs and police chiefs with small budgets who can't afford to pay for full training under the current, I don't know what title that is, 287G, I don't know what title of the U.S. Code that is, but anyway, U.S. Code Section 287G program, or for those burdened by sanctuary policies but want to cooperate with federal officials. Civil liberty groups said the program is dangerous. Let's find out what they have to say. Anyway, the program is just the latest scheme by ICE to enlist local police in its abusive deportation agenda. Abusive deportation. Well, they're here illegally. I mean, said Lorella Pirelli, Deputy National Political Director at the American Civil Liberties Union. She said ICE is explicitly trying to get local authorities to circumvent the will of political officials who enact sanctuary policies, which is a violation of the Constitution, I'm sure, who enact sanctuary policies, and she predicts legal problems for those who sign up for the program. Oh, there we go, the threats. ICE is asking local law enforcement to risk violating the Fourth Amendment. Let's see, they're under arrest already, they're in custody, they have no right to privacy, and no, Fourth Amendment search and seizure, they've already been seized, they're in jail. I'm kind of missing it. We urge local law enforcement to resist this dangerous proposal and stand by their commitment to the communities they serve, unless she thinks that sanctuary city laws somehow create an amendment to the Fourth Amendment by themselves. I don't know. Okay. We urge local law enforcement to resist this dangerous proposal and stand by their commitment to the communities they serve. It's funny, when they make a statement like that, it shows they have no legal basis. Because otherwise, you just say, we're going to sue and you're going to lose. So when you hear attorneys talking like that, that means they ain't got nothing. So anyway, just to let you know. Under the Warrant Service Officer Program, local law enforcement won't be involved in asking about legal status for citizenship, but will have permission to detain some for up to 48 hours to give ICE a chance to take custody. Okay, let me read that again. I kind of read through that, and I kind of missed what it said. Under the Warrant Service Officer Program, local law enforcement won't be involved in asking about legal status or citizenship, but will have permission to detain someone for up to 48 hours to give ICE a chance to take custody. Officials said it stems from the same authority in Section 287G that allows the federal government to deputize police to enforce immigration law. But where the 287G program requires 4 weeks of training and gives officers power to begin deportation, the Warrant Service Officer Program requires only 1 day of training and involves only detention. That's why these local law enforcement agencies can do it. You can't send somebody out for 4 weeks. You can't deplete your apartment for 4 weeks while these officers get trained. 1 day, though, you can shoot somebody out for 1 day. That's easy. The key step is that officers and deputies will be trained to serve ICE warrants. That could answer objections of some jurisdictions that have balked at holding illegal immigrants based on their own powers. Sheriff Gutierrez said that is why he believes the program will withstand legal scrutiny. If you got it, bring it. If you ain't got it, you ain't bringing it, he said. The Florida legislature has passed an anti-sanctuary bill, which now awaits the signature of Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican. Well, I think he's signing that one. If that bill becomes law, it will allow sheriff's departments to hold the migrants for ICE or even transfer them to ICE facilities. Sanctuary policies have soared since President Trump's election, with jurisdictions across the country announcing they want to put distance between themselves and the president. Those policies chiefly affect law enforcement. The most common effect is that officers refuse to respect ICE warrants and instead release illegal immigrants who have served their time in local custody. Other communities have not embraced full sanctuary policies but have withdrawn from 287G agreements with ICE. Sanctuary communities say they fear any cooperation with ICE will poison their own officers' relations with immigrant and minority communities, chilling crime reporting. Sheriff Gutierrez bristled at that suggestion, saying those who would be snared by the Warrant Service Officer Program are, by definition, already in county prisons and jails, so they have criminal records. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say before about the Fourth Amendment argument they were trying to make. They're already being held in jail or prison for committing a crime, allegedly. They've also been identified by ICE as deportable. He goes on to say, people who are simply here illegally are at the core of the immigration dilemma across this country. But there is no dilemma with people who are here illegally and committing crime. They are criminal illegals who must be removed from this country, the sheriff said. Yeah, see, that's the point. In other words, right, just people who are just illegally, who haven't committed any crime other than crossing the border, which is a crime in of itself, but when you have an illegal who's sitting in jail, well, there's really no, there is no dilemma there. They're illegal and they just committed the crime. They got arrested. They're in jail, allegedly. Well, not allegedly in jail. They're actually in jail, but allegedly committed a crime. So, I mean, they're sitting in jail. So it's not like there should be a dilemma. It's like, oh, well, we have this moral dilemma. What do we do with illegal aliens who are committing crimes? Well, that shouldn't be a moral question. Now, you want to get the bigger moral question, what do we do with illegal aliens in this country, who aren't committing crimes, who have a job, who aren't living off the welfare dole and, EBT card, Section 8, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there's a moral issue there, right? You say, well, okay, they're working, they have a job, and, okay, they have a family, the kids aren't committing crimes, the kids are well-disciplined, they're going to church, they're anti-abortion, they're maybe starting a business somehow, whatever. Maybe you have a moral issue there. You can argue that back and forth. But there is no moral issue to discuss once they're in jail. They've been arrested. They committed a crime. They're here illegally. Time to go. Bye. Have a nice day. Well, maybe. But whether you have a nice day or not, who cares? Just go home. That's what the sheriff is trying to say. So anyway, live call-in shows, 775-273-8970. And if you want to appear by vMix video call, just put it in the chat saying I want to appear by vMix video phone call, and I will get it to you. Let me just double check email real quick. See, make sure nobody's sent me anything here. Let's see. Nope, I haven't seen that. Okay. All right, so let's get to our next story. And, this is a good news story, so we're going to do a good news story. Well, this last one was pretty good news. I like that. Well, actually, the last two were actually pretty good news. Surprise. How did we do that? It looks like we're going for 3 in a row here in a second. All right. I like this one. Trump pardons ex-U.S. Let me get back over here. There we go. Trump pardons ex-U.S. soldier who killed Iraqi prisoner. And some of you may remember this story. This is the guy who the Pentagon decided to go after. I guess they got some crap from the local Iraqi population, And this guy was a good soldier. He was just, got caught up in, some stuff. And there was talk that Trump was going to pardon him, and Trump finally did. So good for President Trump. Let's get to this story. Let's see, let me get my mouse over here. There we go. All right. And this is that's a March 14th, 2014 file photo. Michael Bahena, senator, embraced by his brother Brett and girlfriend Shannon Wall following his release from prison in Leavenworth, Kansas. Bahena, who was convicted of killing an Iraqi prisoner, served 5 years. Okay, let's go. All right. Again, this is Washington Times. Actually, them reprinting a story from the Associated Press. Okay, President Donald Trump has pardoned a former U.S. soldier convicted in 2009 of killing an Iraqi prisoner, the White House announced Monday. Trump signed an executive grant of clemency, a full pardon for Army First Lieutenant Michael Bahena of Oklahoma, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said. Bahena was convicted of unpremeditated murder in a combat zone after killing a suspected al-Qaeda terrorist in Iraq. He was paroled in 2014 and has been scheduled to remain on parole until 2024. A military court has sentenced Bahena to 25 years in prison. However, the Army's highest appellate court noted concern about how the trial court had handled Bahena's claim of self-defense, Sanders said. The Army Clemency and Parole Board also reduced the sentence to 15 years and paroled him as soon as he was eligible. Bahena's case attracted broad support from the military, Oklahoma elected officials, and the public, Sanders said. She added that Bahena was a model prisoner while serving his sentence, and in light of these facts, Mr. Bahena is entirely deserving of the pardon. Oklahoma's two Republican senators, James Lankford and Jim Inhofe, hailed the pardon, thanking Trump for giving Bahena a clean slate, which means, right, he's no longer a felon. He's not an ex-felon. He's a nothing felon. Zero. He's clean slate. Pardon means whatever you want to do. You fill out an application for a job. They ask you if you've ever been convicted of a felony. You can legally say, no, I have not been. Period. Okay. Bahena acknowledged during his trial that instead of taking the prisoner home as he was ordered, he took the man to a railroad culvert, stripped him, and then questioned him at gunpoint about a roadside bombing that had killed two members of Bahena's platoon. Bahena, a native of Oklahoma City, Bahena, a native of Oklahoma City, a suburb of Edmond, said the man moved toward him and he shot him because Bahena thought he would try to take his gun. Oklahoma's Attorney General first requested a pardon of Bahena in February of 2018 and renewed his request last month. Attorney General Mike Hunter said he believed Bahena's conviction was unjustified because of erroneous jury instructions and the failure of prosecutors to turn over evidence supporting a self-defense claim. Yeah, that's what I'm not sure what they call in Court of Military Justice. Court-martial, but generally it's like Brady material. In other words, if the government, in this case, like the Pentagon, the Defense Department, has exculpatory evidence. In other words, if you say, "Hey, I was acting in self-defense," generally, when you say you're acting in self-defense, again, I don't know, USMC, was it United States Code of Military, USMC, United States Code, United States Code of Military Justice, USCMJ, I don't know what the hell it is. Anyway, United States Code of Military Justice. I don't know all the ins and outs of their procedure. It's a little bit different than civilian procedure. In fact, when we do a jury trial, you generally, if you get somebody who's former military, you generally have to say, okay, you understand this is not a military court, it's not a court-martial court, it's a little bit different on the burden of proof and stuff. But generally in civilian court, like, federal court or state court, most state courts, if murder has to be something unlawful. Now, for it to be unlawful, and the state has a burden of proving that, has to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt, if you claim self-defense, if you put self-defense at issue, you don't have the burden of proving you acted in self-defense. That burden still belongs to the state, because the state still has to prove one of the elements to it being unlawful if it's self-defense is not unlawful. So it's not like it's an affirmative defense that you have to prove yourself. Now the state actually has to disprove that you were acting in self-defense. So possibly the jury instruction could have been erroneous because it could have placed a burden on the defendant to prove he was acting in self-defense instead of keeping it with the state, the government, and this LCMJ. Something like that. But anyway, so that could have been the erroneous jury instruction, and that's happened in state court too, where and in fact, a lot of attorneys don't like if you do a lot of battery cases or domestic battery cases, a lot of attorneys don't realize that if you claim self-defense, like say a wife says her husband, hit her, and the husband says, "Hey, I was acting in self-defense." A lot of attorneys don't even know that it's not the defendant's burden to prove he acted in self-defense. It's actually the state's burden to prove he did not act in self-defense. So that could have been it. And it looked like when they took a look at it, even the military, when they looked at it, they said, "Eh." So it looked like they weren't willing to go the extra mile of saying, okay, reverse the conviction or even reverse a remand, but it looked like they just kind of adjusted his sentence and made him eligible for parole as soon as possible. And thank God we have a good president like President Trump in there who recognized that, yeah, there was an injustice. You have both senators from the state of Oklahoma saying, hey, this is screwed up. You got the Attorney General from Oklahoma saying, hey, this is screwed up. You have the parole board for the Defense Department saying, yeah, it's kind of screwed up. We better just drop his sentence from 25 years to 15, and we'll make him eligible for parole as soon as possible, and parole up, get him out of here. So it looked like everybody was in all agreement that the trial itself was kind of screwed up. So, and that does happen, and sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes you get an overzealous prosecutor, but sometimes people just make mistakes. And unfortunately, this guy had to do, it sounds like, 5 years before that mistake was undone, but at least it got undone. So that's at least good news. All right, we've got another story here. This is from, I believe, the Wall Street Journal. Let's take a look here. Here we go. U.S. deployment triggered by intelligence warning of Iranian attack plans. Unusually specific intelligence reports about fresh Iranian threats to American forces in the Middle East triggered a U.S. military request in the Middle East. And there you see a picture of, I believe it's the USS Abraham Lincoln, seen deploying from Naval Station Norfolk last month. That's a big ship. The White House said the U.S. was rerouting the carrier to the Middle East in response to Iranian actions. And again, his story from the Wall Street Journal from Gordon Lebold and Michael Gordon. I would suggest it's a good idea. There's two newspapers I subscribe to online, and when you subscribe to them, you get. You can pull these newspapers up online. When you subscribe to them, you get all kinds of benefits, and you get print editions. You get stuff that's easy to put up on YouTube. Just the versions they give you. You see my name there in the top right corner, Carl Jogger. That's like me. That's like my subscription. So, and they're really cheap, really inexpensive to subscribe to them. It's like next to nothing. You don't even notice it every month. It's hardly anything at all. But they're really, and you get the news every day. It's really cool. But anyway, USS Abraham Lincoln seen to, okay, boom. Here we go. Okay. U.S. intelligence showed that Iran has made plans to target U.S. forces in Iraq and elsewhere in the Middle East, triggering a decision to reinforce the American military presence in the region in an effort to deter any possible moves by Tehran, U.S. officials said Monday. Let's see. That Iran, the escalation of tensions came as European diplomats said Monday that Iran appeared poised to breach positions in the 2015 International Nuclear Pact that restricted Tehran's nuclear program in exchange for relief from economic sanctions. That followed a rocket barrage fired into Israel by an Iranian-backed militia in Gaza over the weekend. Washington has been stepping up pressure on Iran. Last month, the U.S. said it was ending waivers for Iran to export oil to a handful of its largest buyers in a bid to push Iran's oil exports to zero. Let's see. And designated Iran's ideological military arm, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as a foreign terrorist organization. The new U.S. intelligence showed that Iran drew up plans to target U.S. forces in Iraq and possibly Syria to orchestrate attacks in the Bab el-Mandab Strait near Yemen through proxies and in the Persian Gulf with its own armed drones, the U.S. official said. There's also been intelligence that Iran may be seeking to target U.S. forces in Kuwait. A U.S. official said it was unclear whether the new intelligence indicated operations Tehran planned to carry out imminently or contingency preparations in the case of U.S.-Iran tensions erupted into hostilities. Well, these are the moderate, Iranians that, President Obama said, oh, these are the people we can deal with. No, these are the people that conned you. Although I don't think it was really hard to con him. I think he's more than happy to see, Iran eventually get a nuclear bomb. It wasn't a big secret that, President Obama was not a big fan of Israel. His father hated Israel, saw them as colonialists. And you remember the book Dreams from My Father, and when he went through his identity crisis in the book, he said he found himself as being his father's son, and basically wanted to carry on his father's work. And his father's work was basically anti-colonialism, trying to build up, Africa, Southeast Asia at the expense of the evil European and then their successor, the United States of America, colonialists who have done so much evil around the world, even though we've ended poverty to about half the world, by our own efforts, etc. I mean, everything else under the sun. So, he was more than happy to see a strong Iran at the expense of Israel. You had Benjamin Netanyahu coming over at the time, uh, telling the American U.S. Congress, please don't vote for this thing. This is bad for Israel. It's bad for the Middle East. It's bad for the United States. And President Obama just pushed it through anyway. It was a big con job. They even bragged about it later, about the con job they worked on the media. That guy who worked for him, I can't remember his name. His brother works for CBS News, that kind of thing. So anyway, so it's a real shame that we've allowed Iran to get to the point where it is right now, and then we have to deploy it. That's not inexpensive, deploying a carrier battle group to somewhere where it was. I mean, that obviously that carrier battle group was being sent somewhere else, and now it has to get redeployed to the Middle East. That's not inexpensive. That's we only have so many carrier battle groups in our arsenal. There's a lot of men and material that gets involved in moving those that carrier battle group someplace. But anyway, it goes on to say, a partial Iranian withdrawal from the nuclear pact would mark Iran's strongest reaction yet to the U.S. measures aimed at intensifying pressure on Tehran. The Trump administration pulled out of the multi-country deal last year. Iranian officials have previously indicated that Tehran might modify its adherence to the pact if Iran failed to receive the economic benefit it anticipated. A spokesman for Iran's National Security Council dismissed the U.S. military deployment as psychological warfare. I don't know. I wouldn't push this president too far. Uh, this president obviously hates war. I mean, that's anybody who knows this guy knows he hates war. But he sure as shit ain't gonna let our troops get abused anywhere around the world. And if they do, there's definitely gonna be retaliation. And he'll be he'll have huge bipartisan support if the Iranians hurt any of our troops or harm any of our troops or interest anywhere in the Middle East or anywhere else. He'll have huge bipartisan support for a retaliatory measure. President Hassan Rouhani of Iran, in a phone call with Qatar's emir, called for moderation in international relations. State news agency IRNA reported. He described the Gaza flare-up as worrisome. The additional U.S. military capabilities in the Middle East were requested by General Kenneth McKenzie, Jr., the head of U.S. Central Command, after intelligence indicated the emergence of the threat to U.S. forces. The military officials said, in response, the Trump administration is sending an aircraft carrier strike group and 4 to 6 bombers as extra force to the region. As recently as last week, there were no obvious signs of a new threat, officials said, but that changed dramatically after a fresh intelligence assessment late Friday showed there were multiple threat streams and that the U.S. forces might be in danger in Iraq and possibly in other Middle Eastern nations like Syria and Kuwait. The threats included concerns from both land and water, officials said. U.S. officials said they were struck by the specificity of the Iranian plans and the fact that Americans were mentioned as potential targets. General McKenzie requested additional forces to send a signal to Tehran that it would be held responsible if either its regular military, the Guard Corps, or even Iranian proxies operating in Iraq or elsewhere attempted to do harm to U.S. forces. Military officials said Patriot anti-missile systems may also be sent, some officials said. And, the whole thing with Iraq is basically Iran is pretty much, in Iraq big time. I mean, they're pretty much running things. The Iraqi government, even though we're the ones who gave them a chance to have their own country. We got rid of Saddam Hussein for them, which was a big, huge mistake. Thank you, George W. Bush, for that stupid move. But anyway, and pretty much, got rid of the one buffer to Iran in the region, which was Saddam Hussein, and then also allowed for the Shiite majority to pretty much take over the country. And of course, Iran's a Shiite country. Saddam Hussein was Sunni. And he kept the Shiites, in check in his country, and now, of course, they're running the country. And unfortunately, that's bad for everybody. They've allowed Iran has now been able to go into Yemen, go into Lebanon, Syria, etc., and just be causing mischief and mayhem. They've been, expanding their efforts in Gaza and the West Bank as far as supplying missiles and rockets to these people, as far as logistical and technical support as well, and just causing, havoc on the state of Israel. Israel's been very, very patient, way more patient than we would be. Like I always say, just imagine Canada started launching missiles at us. We would just sit there and just shoot the missiles down and not counterattack? Of course, we would go in and counterattack, take over Canada, which probably be a good thing for the Canadians, Anyway, but nonetheless, we wouldn't just sit back and just shoot down their missiles. No, we would be sending planes and tanks and troops across the border and just taking out the people who made the decisions to launch those in the first place and taking out any of their assets. Israel's been very, very patient, and they should be commended for that. Because the people shooting the missiles at them are, well, they're just assholes. I mean, they. But anyway, it's a whole nother story here. But anyway, it's a live call-in show, so everybody wants to call in, please feel free. And 775-273-8970. And if everybody wants to appear by vMix, a video call, just put in the chat. Hold on a second, I have to grab something that fell off here. Hold on. Little mouse decided to jump off the tray here. So these mice, you got to watch out for them. They're kind of quick. Just all on its own. I wouldn't even touch it. Just went throop, just like jumped off the tray here. So it's kind of funny. But let's see. Let me find this another story. I'll get to back to the Washington Times. Let's see here. In fact, I'll just jump across here myself in the meantime, so you guys don't have to see me jumping across the newspaper here. Well, that's me. All right, so let me just go bounce around here in the newspaper. Let's see. That's the Wall Street Journal. Let's see. Well, while I'm at the Wall Street Journal, let me take a look real quick. Let's see. Oh, well, I've been following this China trade deal, so let's kind of talk about this. I was wanting to cover this the other day, but then I did those interviews, so let's talk about this one here. Okay, White House ratchets up trade fight. This is dealing with China. U.S. Trade Representative says U.S. to raise tariffs to 25% on $200 billion in Chinese good. So let's see, 25% tariff, $200 billion. Let's see, do the math. That's $1 trillion in tariffs we receive. No, I'm just kidding. That's $50 billion. Really, that much? Damn. That's a lot of money. Well, anyway, unless my math is wrong, but I don't know. That seems like a lot of money. But I don't know. I guess it's kind of good. So we'll see. But anyway, let's get to this story. All right. So U.S. Trade Representative says U.S. to raise tariffs to 25% on $200 billion in Chinese goods. Okay, this is again by the Wall Street Journal. Washington. Prospects for a speedy conclusion to the U.S.-China trade fight dimmed Monday after U.S. officials accused Beijing of reneging on its promises and vowed to implement President Trump's threat to raise tariffs quickly on Chinese imports. Over the course of the last week or so, we've seen an erosion in commitments by China. I would say retreating from commitments that have already been made in our judgment, said U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer. Oh, by the way, this guy's like really cool. I mean, he did the whole EU thing. He did. I think he did this. He was in charge of the South Korea thing. Also, he's working with Japan. Of course, he did the U.S. MCA, United States, Mexico, Canada agreement. So this guy's kind of a badass dude. But anyway, declaring tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese imports would rise to 25% starting Friday. The comments from Mr. I'm going to totally butcher your name, Lighthizer, who was joined by Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, who some people don't like. I actually like the guy. I think he's kind of a badass, too. But anyway, joined by Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, followed tweets from President Trump on Sunday that accused China of trying to renegotiate and threaten to expand tariffs to cover nearly everything the U.S. imports from China. Ooh, a big dockyard. Mr. Trump's threat rattled financial markets around the world, but also triggered speculation that it might be a negotiating tactic aimed at getting the best deal out of Beijing. While U.S. stocks recoiled sharply Monday morning, they staged a comeback in the afternoon, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average ending the day down only 0.3% at close. Mainland China Stock Exchange in Shanghai and Shenzhen, wherever that is, Shenzhen, posted the biggest single-day decline since 2016. See, we take a little hit, and we kind of take a very small hit. We took a big hit in the morning. It's like, oh, shit. But then everybody kind of calms down. But you talk about putting tariffs on Chinese on imports to our country, their exports to our country. That really shakes up their markets. I mean, they depend on. See, we have a lot more leverage. Why? Because we import way more. We have a $500 billion deficit, trade deficit. So we import $500 billion more a year of their stuff than they import of our stuff. So if we say, hey, we're going to cut back on taking some of your stuff in, they say, well, we'll do the same thing and say, well, we're going to lose a lot less than you are. And it's true. And their markets responded accordingly. So, again, based on that news from just Lightsizers saying we're going to impose tariffs come this Friday, their two mainland stock exchanges took their biggest single-day decline since 2016. That's 3 years ago. The briefing from Mr. Lighthizer and Mnuchin, which took place after U.S. markets closed on Monday, made it clear there are deep concerns about the direction of the talks that go beyond negotiating style. In a show of unity by an administration often divided between trade-friendly officials and China hawks, the two officials were joined at Monday's briefing by economic advisor Larry Kudlow, again, another guy I like, and trade and manufacturing advisor Peter Navro. The level of brinkmanship on both sides and their obvious mutual distrust has made the path to even a temporary ceasefire a lot murkier than just a few days ago, said Eswar Prasad, professor of trade policy at Cornell. It is likely a cooling-off period will be needed to get the talks back on track, but the imposition of additional tariffs by the U.S. later this week could keep the talks derailed for a while to come. Well, that's okay. We'll just keep collecting the checks. When they impose those tariffs, that means they're paying us. When they want those goods, when they hit U.S. the shores of the United States on their big ships, somebody's got to write a check for that. Or they're not coming in. It's like turn the boat around. Hey, go back home. So there you go. Despite his negative comments, Mr. Lighthizer said high-level talks with Chinese negotiators were expected to continue Thursday and Friday in Washington. The talks were originally scheduled to resume Wednesday, but Mr. Trump's threat of new tariffs Sunday caused a delay as Beijing weighed canceling the talks. Mnuchin said that some concerns arose last week when he and Mr. Lighthizer were in China for talks. There were some signs of that when we were in Beijing, Mr. Mnuchin said. We were reassured that things were moving forward. Well, something must have freaked out Mnuchin and Lighthizer. They must have got pissed somehow. So they must have seen something they didn't like. Well, good for them. Probably, reported back to Trump when they got back in town and said, hey, man, these guys are trying to mess with us. And Trump's like, oh, well, let's do something about that. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. So let's raise these tariffs. Then over the weekend, he said communications from Chinese officials indicated the talks were going substantially backward from the U.S. perspective. We are not willing to go back on documents that have been negotiated, Mnuchin said. In other words, they already negotiated a deal in China. Well, let's change it. Hey, screw you, buddy. You know how long it took to get this deal done. Anyway, the two officials declined to specify areas where they think the Chinese side is backtracking. There was concern about the form of the agreement and a redrafting of it that would pull back from important commitments, Lighthizer said. A spokesman from the Chinese embassy in Washington didn't immediately respond to requests for comment on the talks Monday. People in Washington following the talks, we believe China became less willing to make concessions after the recent Beijing conference on China's Belt and Road Infrastructure Initiative, which was attended by about 40 heads of state and government. The conference gave a boost to those in the government and ruling Communist Party who contend that Beijing was conceding too much to the U.S., given how much global growth depends on China. Well, we don't depend on it. According to the White House official, the dispute revolves in part around how a final deal would be presented to the public. Again, they're trying to save face. Look, again, since we have the trade deficit, since they export way more to us than we do to them, whatever deal is going to get done is going to hurt them way more than it does us. We're going to make it fair. So, these guys over there, even though they're quote-unquote dictators, they can be gotten rid of by the rich and powerful and by powerful in the political Communist Party there in China. Just because you say, oh, I'm a, president for life, dictator for life, whatever, doesn't mean those people around you that are all smiling at you and shaking your hand can't get rid of you. They can. So they got to try to save face and make it look like they're not giving up too much, or the whole testosterone thing is like, oh, we gotta look, we gotta look tough, that kind of thing. So, we have to look tough too. So, I get it. And that's probably why Trump understands these guys. It's like, well, that's the way I am, and they're doing the same thing I would do. They've been getting away with this so long, they kind of take it for granted. Oh, we're supposed to export more stuff to you than, than you're supposed to give to us. Because the whole point of that originally with George H.W. Bush back in the early 90s was that they figured, well, gee, if we get China involved in the free market economy of the world, they'll become more democratic and do more on civil rights and human rights. And, of course, that was a bunch of bullshit because it didn't happen. All China did was use the money we send them by buying their crap, and I mean it is crap, let's be honest, by buying their crap, and then use that to build up their military and their Navy, specifically their Navy and their Air Force, because they want to be able to challenge us in the South China Sea, in the Pacific as well, and they want to be able to eventually take on, take Taiwan back. So that's how they that's how they use the good trade relations, was to just take advantage of us, sell us all their stuff, deny us access to their markets, and build up their own military. And now it's time. Excuse me. It's time to put a halt to that. Let me grab some water. Hold on. Yeah, you can. Let's see. Yeah, if you want to get rid of that guy, you can, depending on what he said. Doesn't depend on that cheap Chinese guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to translate that, but let's see. Well, I guess I could. Let me see here. Let's see. Oh, I guess that's okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. That'll work. That's funny. It's like, oh, what's he saying? Oh, he's saying hello. So there you go. That's funny. Let's see. Good to see you, Patriots, tonight. Yeah. Yeah, I translate. It looked like he's just saying hello. That's cool. But anyway. So, but yeah, remember to call in 775-273-8970. Again, that's 775-273-8970. Yeah, I mean, it's important he speaks English, but yeah, I think he was just, I translated. It looked like he was just saying hello. So it's like, oh, hello back. I don't know. So that's, whatever. But anyway. But anybody wants to hear my VMix video call, that'll be fine too as well. It's you could do that. But let me see. There was one more story I did want to cover. Let me get to that. Let me jump over here on the screen. Okay. All right. Let me take a look. Let's see. There was one other story. Actually, I was trying to get back to the Washington Times, but these stories keep popping up from the Wall Street Journal that look good. But let me get back to the Washington Times here. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, I enjoy this story here. Yeah, let me get to this. Do a little fly in there. All right. So anyway, turnabout. Barr deploys Holder defense to stymie Democrats in Congress. Yeah, I got a kick out of this story because, basically, Barr is getting ready to be held in contempt of Congress for refusing to obey a subpoena to appear and provide documents, provide the unredacted version of the Mueller report, provide all the investigative source materials and stuff. And remember during the Fast and Furious scandal, which of course was never a big scandal because the media covered it up, and of course the media didn't report on it. But I want you to think about this for a second. Imagine if President Trump had put this program together, whereby they say, okay, we're gonna give these guns to the cartel, put some kind of like a homing device, or at least keep the track of their serial numbers, so we can track the movement of the cartel members. I mean, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but anyway, then of course some of the guns are used in crimes, and one in particular was used to actually kill a border patrol agent in an ambush style attack. So of course Congress wants to know, hey, what the hell? Who came up with this idea, and what the hell is going on? So they subpoenaed Holder, and then Holder denied the subpoena, saying, "Hey, look, we don't give over investigative materials. We want our people to be able to do investigations, chase down leads, even if they lead nowhere, with the freedom that Congress is not going to be made public, and Congress is going to be reading and saying, oh, these guys are idiots, and then embarrassing, potentially humiliating people who they tracked down as a lead, somebody who didn't commit a crime, but they just tracked them down, as a potential lead." So, so Holder said, no, I'm not going to obey it. Congress voted to hold him in contempt. Of course, when you get held in contempt of Congress, it's up to the Attorney General to prosecute you. You heard recently some members of Congress saying, well, we have an inherent power to hold people in contempt. And basically send the sergeant arms out, put, the Attorney General in handcuffs, and drag him over to the House of Representatives to testify. I don't know, I haven't researched that issue too much, but again, it just shows you the extent these people are willing to go to keep a lie alive. It's like the old thing: if you get caught in a lie, you can either confess up and say, "Oh, sorry, I lied," or "Sorry, I was mistaken," "Sorry, I misled you," "Sorry, I got it wrong," or you just double down on it and just keep going forward and never admitting you made a mistake. That appears what the Democrats are doing. It kind of goes hand in hand with the way their children actually act. The children on college campuses. Instead of wanting to have a debate with you or discuss the issues with you, they just want to yell and scream at you, and they don't want any of their ideas challenged. And same thing here with the Democrats regarding the Mueller report. They just want to keep pushing this thing forward and keep doing investigations. They're hoping Mueller was going to give them a slam dunk on impeachment. They could just start impeachment proceedings, and if it was harsh enough, they were hoping they could snag 20 Republicans in the Senate and get that 2/3 majority to be able to convict rather. They have enough votes to impeach in the House, but obviously they're 20 votes shy, although Mitt Romney would probably vote to impeach, so maybe 19 votes shy of conviction in the Senate to remove President Trump from office. But anyway, take a look at this story. And so basically Barr is using the same defense that Eric Holder used, and what they eventually with Holder, they eventually sued him in civil court for contempt, and that just dragged on and eventually went nowhere. But let's take a look at this story here. Okay, so turnabout. Barr deploys Holder defense to stymie Democrats in Congress. This is given Stephen Dinan of the Washington Times. Actually, this was reported yesterday. As Attorney General William P. Barr works to fend off aggressive Congress, an aggressive Congress demanding more information, and he has turned to a surprising source for justification, former Obama official Eric Holder, Jr., who 7 years ago found himself in much the same position. Mr. Holder's justification for thwarting the House, then under Republican control, was the first piece of evidence Mr. Barr used last week in his letter letting House Democrats know he would not meet their deadline for complying with the subpoena. At issue is the unredacted copy of a special counsel Robert Mueller's report on the 2016 election. Now, just to let you know, the story has been updated just a little bit as of today. Barr is sending some staff over to talk to Nadler's staff to see if they can negotiate something. Now, Barr's on pretty good grounds. And Nadler's just being a pain in the ass. So I mean, they should be able to negotiate something. I mean, Nadler just wants some headlines. I think if he cedes to some of the requests made by Barr and Barr shows up, then he can still get his little show trial. Anyway, just asking a bunch of stupid questions and trying to embarrass Barr. One thing I like about Barr was one of the questions he was asked, I think by, I want to say Blumenthal, Senator Blumenthal, and when he asked, well, are you going to recuse yourself on those investigations out of the Southern District of New York that are still ongoing? And Barr just looked at him and he goes, no. It's like no. Like, just straight up, well, I'm going to think about it, I'm going to take it under advisement. He's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm the Attorney General. I'm not going to recuse myself. Just totally balls to the wall, shut the hell up. And the thing that people don't realize about Barr is no big, love affair with Trump. Barr is close friends with the Bush family, and as I said, I think last week, some people in the Bush family still blame President Trump for the death of the old lady, of the mom. Barbara Bush. So I mean, there's no love lost there. It's just that Barr's like not going to be pushed around, and he's going to make sure Congress respects the power of the executive branch of government, and specifically respects the Attorney General's office, and specifically respects him, the Attorney General himself. So he's not going to put up with this nonsense from the Senate, because I think when he saw the outcome of the report, he's only been on board, I think, for 3 months here. And he saw for the last 2 years as an outsider watching the media coverage, watching the Democrats were attacking the president, calling him all kinds of names, calling him a traitor, calling him a Russian agent, that kind of stuff. I think he got really disgusted. And one of the things he said when he was at the hearing in the Senate on this Mueller report was, how did we get here? I mean, God, you guys were calling him a Russian agent, you call him a spy, you call him a traitor, calling him a treasonous. I mean, using all this terrible language, and then it turns out at the end of the day that the special counsel comes back and says we have no evidence to substantiate that any member of the Trump campaign conspired with the Russians to try to fix the 2016 election, to try to affect its outcome, and no American whatsoever. And then he says, you hear the narrative inside this House, inside the Congress, and you hear the narrative in the mainstream media. It looks like you would think the Mueller report said just the opposite. It seems like a Mueller report came back and said, oh, yeah, he conspired. They would be reacting the same way they're reacting right now, except they probably would have actually gone forward with the impeachment proceedings. But I mean, they're on the verge of that. But Mueller didn't give him that, but they're not stopping. They're going to keep trying to find something. And the people who hate Trump, they want him impeached. I mean, I don't know what percentages in the country, but trust me, that Mueller report had no effect on them whatsoever. No effect. In the mainstream media, they just found this little nuance here, this little nuance here, this little nuance here. But I read the whole report, and I'm sorry, some of the legal cases, I read them. I read the summaries of them. I didn't read every single case that was cited in the report. Obviously, I'd still be reading it. But as far as the report, as far as what it says, I mean, it does clear the president, and his back and forth little law school review article on whether or not the president obstructed justice. I'm sorry, I come down with Alan Dershowitz and Bill Barr on this one. That it's an Article 2 issue, and the president, the constitutional right to pardon, constitutional right to hire or fire, constitutional right to be the executive in charge of the federal government. So there can be no obstruction. I come down on that same argument. Historically speaking, I think that's the right side of the argument to be on. There are decent arguments on the other side. I just think they're losing arguments. So, to that end, it's like, Barr's like, I've been watching this from the outside and seeing this nonsense going on, and he just wants to end it. Like he said, as far as we're concerned, the Justice Department, the Mueller report came in, we're done. I've made the decision not to indict on the obstruction. Mueller already came back and made the decision on the conspiracy / collusion with the Russians. We're done. We've done our job. Bye. You guys want to keep playing games, fine. But you know what? I'm busy. I got things to do over here. I ain't got time to keep coming up to Congress and telling you about the report. And then one story I heard, the Democrats were saying they want Mueller to come to testify to explain his report. Well, I could see that if the guy wrote say a 20-page report and kind of made a lot of generalizations, but he wrote a 448-page report. I mean, it's very specific. I mean, if I was Mueller, I'd say, Jesus Christ, I wrote 448 pages. Explain what? Like this, why did I put a comma between these two clauses? Should I put a period instead? I mean, he laid out his rationale and his thinking as specifically as you possibly could. We could say, well, when you said this, did you mean this? He goes, if I was him, I'd say, no, read it. I mean what I said. I mean what I wrote. I mean, it's 448 pages. What kind of explanation can you give on that? I remember doing law in motion in front of this one judge, and the person bringing the motion file is a brief, like a moving party, and then the person opposing it, the attorney opposing it, files an opposition brief, and then the person bringing the motion gets to file one more brief known as a reply brief to the opposition. And so the first thing the judge would say in law in motion when the parties were there was, let's see, Russian agent, and I've already hacked your elections in 2020. We signed democracy. USR 2.0 took the world. Oh, okay, that's funny. But anyway, so oh no, they've invaded. They're already here. It's over. But anyway, so the one judge would say, okay, Does anybody else have anything to say that was not in your brief? In other words, is there something you left out of your brief that you want to say to me? But if you've already written it down in your brief, I don't want to hear it again. Okay, I'm busy. And then if you said, well, yeah, I have something I want to add, and the first question the judge would then say to this attorney who was dumb enough to say that was, why didn't you put it in your brief? So the only person who would maybe get a pass was the opposition party saying, well, I read his reply, and he brought up some points that I didn't really see, and now I have something to say. But if you were the moving party and you already wrote the reply brief, the moving party brief, and the reply brief, and you still had something to add, well, no, you wouldn't get to say it. Same thing here. Mueller's wrote 448 pages, detailed as specifically as possible, all his reasoning, his thoughts, all the evidence he uncovered. There's nothing left to explain. And if they ask Mueller to explain the redacted parts, he's going to say, I can't. They're redacted. I can't talk about that. I'm sorry. And like Mueller's that you want to hold me in contempt? I'm sure Mueller's been around a long time. He's liable to tell everybody to go F themselves. Let me tell you, somebody who's been around that long in D.C., he's one of those guys. He also knows where all the bodies are buried, including most of those senators and Congress people he's going to be appearing in front of. So trust me. I mean, that's a guy you probably don't want to mess with because he probably knows a lot about a lot of those people that are going to be threatening him with all kinds of action. No, it's not the guy you want to mess with because again, he knows where all the bodies are buried. But anyway, let me grab another cigarette here. Oh, hey, let me show you real quick. I'll show you the ad I ran in the newspaper real quick. Hold on, let me get to it here. Yeah, hold on. Let me show you. I'm going to show you the ad. I ran a full page ad in the newspaper prior to the 3-day fair I just did. The Pahrump Wild West Extravaganza. Let me show it to you. I'll put it up on the camera here. Let me see if we can get a good shot of it here. Hold on. I'll move the mic away. Oh, let me take down this thing. Do. Anyway, so Carl's Opinion YouTube channel, live calling shows, Trump 2020. And then it said, come visit our booth at the Wild West Extravaganza, May 3rd through the 5th at Petrock Park. Friday, yep, here we go. Friday, noon to 9. Saturday, whenever. Saturday, 8 to 9, and Sunday, 8 to 4. Live YouTube interviews and free book giveaway. Good time to be had by all. I mean, that's the ad I ran in the newspaper. And I'll show you the little flyer they put out. Wild West Extravaganza. And that was a little flyer they put out around town. And then I got the back page advertising also on the flyer. Carl's Opinion YouTube channel with the Trump 2020 on the front there. So it's kind of cool. But anyway, just want to kind of show you guys that. It was kind of cool. Amy, smoking. But, yeah, so I just want to kind of show you that there. All right. So let me go back to the story now. I was just wanting to show you that real quick. But yeah, I got a kick out of it. You gotta do promotion. You gotta advertise. If you wanna get your name out there, you gotta advertise. You gotta bring the people in. Once you get them in, then if you have a good product to it, like what the hell you're talking about, and you have good topics and stuff, and you're interactive, you have call-in shows and stuff, that's fine. But if they never get to you, then they never know if you're good or bad. Now, if they get to you and they think you suck, well, that's on me, because I suck. I think I'm pretty good, but if they don't ever get here, then they can never make that judgment call, that kind of thing. Yeah, make America great again. Yay. This is mega country. I love that, how he made up a new phrase for us. Because, as far as I know, I never heard anybody using that before. So, that was something new, but he gave us a new meme. Like, this is mega country. That was pretty funny. Oh, thanks, Effie. Totally appreciate that. Well, if you want, you can call in. You can call in and do a live call-in if you want to call in. But anyway, let me get back to the story here. Let me get myself up here again. All right. Let's see. Yep. Hey, really cool stuff. But anyway, so let's see. Back to the story. At issue is the unredacted copy of the special. This is going back to the Mueller report and the subpoena and stuff. Blah blah blah. So anyway, Mr. Holder's justification for thwarting the House, then under Republican control, was the first piece of evidence Mr. Barr used last week in his letter letting House Democrats know he would not meet their deadline for complying with the subpoena. At issue is the unredacted copy of the special counsel Robert Mueller's report on the 2016 election. Okay, Democrats won both the report and reams of supporting evidence Mr. Mueller compiled during his 22 months of investigation. Mr. Barr says he is willing to negotiate, but that some of the information, the parts Mr. Mueller gleaned from a grand jury, that's Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 4E material, which is illegal, which I believe is a felony if you release it, are shielded by law and can't be turned over without breaking the law. I believe it's a felony. The department must ensure that it may continue to conduct law. Now, here's the reason for not giving all the investigative stuff. This is Holder said the same thing, and Barr saying the same thing. And I remember when Holder said it, I didn't jump up and down and go, "Oh, it's bullshit." So anyway, here we go. I don't remember saying that. Anyway, the department must ensure that it may continue to conduct law enforcement investigations free of outside interference, particularly in high-profile cases that receive intense public scrutiny. Assistant Attorney General Stephen Boyd wrote in a letter to House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler last week, citing Mr. Holder. To that end, the department has long resisted congressional attempts to rummage through its investigative files. That was a line Holder used, so they just cited him. That's pretty funny. The matter could come to a head Monday morning. That would have been today. So anyway. That is the new deadline given by Mr. Nadler, New York Democrat. Again, the update on this story, this was yesterday's story, is that Barr said he's going to send his staff members over to talk to Nadler's staff to try to negotiate something out where they can appear. He's not going to get everything, but, he can show up and testify because, they just really want to. They want all these documents, but they really want a show trial. They really just want to be able to cross-examine Barr and do what the Democrats in the Senate did, call him an idiot and stuff like that. But unlike the Senate, we had Lindsey Graham, chairman of the committee, who can kind of put a little bit of control on it, although not too much. They generally let senators talk. But, where he's there to make sure it doesn't get out of hand, well, in the House, it's Nadler's the chairman of that committee, so there's nobody to stop it from getting out of control. But, so anyway, this is the new deadline given by Mr. Nadler, New York Democrat, though he has softened his demands by narrowing the scope of documents he wants to see. He goes on to say, though, Nadler, but if the department persists in its baseless refusal to comply with a validly issued subpoena, the committee will move to contempt proceedings and seek further legal recourse. It is not clear how Mr. Barr will respond, but the White House said Mr. Nadler had no choice but to water down his demands. It is astonishing to me that not a single Democrat has yet to go read the less redacted version of the report, yet they keep asking for more. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Mr. Trump's spokeswoman, told reporters after the chairman's concession. So in other words, they provided the less redacted. I think everything they left everything in there except for the federal grand jury stuff. It's down in the classified briefing room, meaning that you can't bring a cell phone in there, can't bring a camera in there, can't bring any kind of recording device to record what you see. You can't. I don't think you can even take notes. I think you can just go in there, you can read it, you look at it, and then you got to leave. You got to sign in, sign all this non-disclosure stuff, everything else, and that's it, which is the way it should be, because they don't want it leaked. The whole point of that's why it's in the classified briefing room. There's all kinds of laws you could violate and break if you leak any of that stuff. But no Democrats, when you go to look at it, you have to sign in and everything and show ID. So until the log sheets show that no Democrats have gotten to look at it. They want to see so much, but they haven't gotten to look at it. So should Mr. Nadler be unsatisfied and pursue a contempt citation, Barr would be only the second Attorney General who has faced such ignominy. First is Mr. Holder, who found himself on the wrong side of a congressional vote in 2012 after he thwarted an investigation into the Fast and Furious gun operation, in which federal agents allowed guns to be sold to traffickers. The weapons began turning up at crime scenes, including the ambush death of U.S. Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. Republican-led House Oversight and Government Reforms Committee demanded documents about the administration's public relations strategy. Holder balked. President Obama belatedly claimed executive privilege, and the House voted 255-267 to hold Holder in contempt, criminal contempt of Congress, and then voted 258-95 to pursue a civil judgment ordering Holder to comply. As per usual practice, the Justice Department refused to pursue the criminal contempt action against the administration, and in this case, its own chief. The House went to court to try to obtain a declaration to enforce the demand. House Republicans won the first round in court when a judge ruled they could bring the case. A later decision was more nuanced, upholding the president's right to shield some information by executive privilege, but ordering Holder to be more precise in which documents could be shielded. But then years had elapsed. The Trump Justice Department last week refusing to meet Nadler's original deadline for the unredacted Mueller report cited Holder's 2012 legal opinion justifying the withholding of Fast and Furious. A spokesman for Mr. Holder didn't respond to questions about the current administration tactic to name check his boss. The Justice Department's letter last week also cited former Attorney General Michael Mukasey, who battled House Speaker Pelosi over contempt citations in 2008, and former Attorney General Robert Jackson, a legal legend. God, I want to say Jackson. Well, I'm pretty sure Jackson became a Supreme Court justice. And I want to say he also was in charge of the Nuremberg proceedings. I could be wrong on that. A legal legend who defended Roosevelt against House demands in the 40s. Yet it was Mr. Holder's 2012 argument that led the Justice Department defense. Legal analysts are divided on whether the Holder defense will work for Mr. Barr. And it goes back and forth on that. Let me jump over here. But anyway, it's about almost 10:30. Been on for about an hour and a half. And so I just want to thank everybody who was in the chat tonight. Nobody called in. I don't know why. But anyway, so be it. Nobody did a video call in. I don't know why. But anyway, so be it. Had a good time, though. Enjoyed reading these stories. I was reading for the first time myself. So it was like kind of cool kind of reading them and talking to you about them. Plus, it was cool kind of telling you about my little event, this 3-day weekend event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Pahrump Wild West Extravaganza. I'm probably going to do, we got some more coming up here in the future. 4th of July, there's a veterans organization here in town. I was thinking about trying to get over there and doing live streaming, like just interviewing veterans. You know, I want to try to set something up with that where I bring my whole booth set up, you know, down to their facilities in their area, and I coordinate with like the local director and try to, you know, set up where I can just, you know, be interviewing veterans for, you know, during the course of the day, and you know, kind of put their stories up out there. I think it's real important for us, for our country, and for our young people to hear these stories from our veterans, people who made the ultimate sacrifice being death, but I mean as far as the ultimate sacrifice, as far as their time, their energy, their life, their limb, you know, put that on the line for this country. I think it's going to be important for young people to hear their stories, and it's important for all of us to hear their stories. So I'm going to be trying to get something like that set up myself, and I'm sleeping in my jammies. Okay, you get a pass. You get a pass, no problem. Miss Effie loves America. You get a pass. But anyway, so but we're trying to get that set up and see if I can get that set up in the next couple of weeks or so. And I definitely want to do more of these outdoor live events. You learn something new every time you do them. I know Will does a lot of live events outdoors, and so I'm sure he can tell you the same thing. The more you do, the more you learn. As far as sound, lighting, you know, all kinds of other things, you know, electricity, you know, you'll plug it into electrical outlets that maybe aren't the best. You get a lot of ground noise and stuff. You have to try to fix that. So, but it was fun, though. But anyway, guys, I just want to say thanks to everybody, and thanks to all those who will be watching later as well. And other than that, this is Carl for Carl's Opinion signing off. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.